Hey there, folks. Welcome to another Run8 video. We have got a new region now available in Run8. This is the Norfolk Southern Alabama Great Southern Railroad. Now, this is called South Phase 1. So, I think it would only be safe to assume that they're going to extend it to Meridian, Mississippi to the south and not to the north, to Chattanooga, being that it's called South. It's going to be $40, pretty much like every other map add-on or DLC for Run8. You're going to get, of course, the massive Norris classification and hump yard, the intermodal facility, both being in Birmingham. You're going to get Tuscaloosa as well. The route kind of runs between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. It actually goes a bit further south than Tuscaloosa. You're going to get BNSF East Thomas Transfer Yard, CSX, Bessemer, transfer yard as well. Amtrak stations for the Crescent you're going to get to, both of which are, of course, in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, which runs the Crescent from NOLA to New York City. Now, the Alabama Great Southern runs Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee, and an operational subsidiary of Norfolk Southern from Chattanooga, Tennessee to New Orleans, Louisiana. So you can kind of tell, I guess, where they're going for Phase 1. Now, the AGS was originally chartered in 1852 by its original predecessor, Wills Valley Railroad, later into Southern, and then, of course, today, Norfolk Southern. The city of Birmingham sat basically in the north central part of the state of Alabama, is Alabama's second largest city, founded 1871, just after the Civil War, drawing essentially three communities together into one, eventually becoming the massive industrial and rail hub that it is today, and that it became, kind of peaking in the 60s and 70s, primarily for the iron and steel industry, which took hold of the region, giving it the nickname the Pittsburgh of the South, or we'll call the Pittsburgh of the North the Birmingham of the North. Home to the famed Barber Motorsports Park, Sloss Furnace, which you can see here on the route, which is pretty cool. They did a pretty good job with that. We will look at it in due time. And the latter now, a historic landmark, a blast furnace, operated 1882 to 1971. Now, the furnace was named after one of the founders of Birmingham, who helped develop the area and its railroad importance and necessity. And there's also a Frisco 282 Mikado that sits on site. I don't believe it's in the game, though, obviously, being that there's no steam locomotives. Now, the town sits on the ridge, one of the almost southern ridges of the Appalachian mountain chain, called Red Mountain, named, of course, for the iron ore, which this area produced and is famous for. So it's kind of hilly, but not super hilly. You're basically going to be going straight up from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. Gradual grades is going to be up and down, undulating hogback style, but you're going to climb at least, I want to say it's almost 700 feet, probably a little bit more than 700 feet. Going from south to north, of course. You're going north to south, it's just going to go the opposite direction, obviously, down 700 feet. Hog back in. Tuscaloosa, the other big city on the map, is Alabama's fifth most populous city and home to the Crimson Tide's University of Alabama. Me being an ACC boy from Florida, I don't give a crap about the SEC or the Crimson Tide, but hey, it's there. We'll take a look at that as well. It was incorporated into a city in 1819 named after a Muskegon Native American chief and served as the state's capital for a little while between 1826 and 1846, which of course later moved to Montgomery, Alabama. And Birmingham BNSF comes in from the northwest, which is a former KCS line, of course. From the southwest, you got CSX running right through north to south as well. And Birmingham was pretty interesting. It was home to the Southern Railway steam era loco shops, once visited, of course, by the famed Flying Scotsman, one of the times it was here. A few smaller railroads in the area as well, the ATN, Alabama Southern, the Alabama Gulf Coast, and there's quite a few locals. And I think from what I can gather so far before we fully hop in here, it seems to be the bread and butter of this route. So if you're into running locals, or of course the massive hump bowl that's here too, it's really going to be that's going to be the entree is the locals. I mean, it's pretty busy in real life. I haven't seen too much in game yet, but locals are going to be the big thing here. And before we hop right in, I just wanted to quickly touch on the wealth of knowledge that is available at your fingertips for NSAGS South, which you can look at all the manuals that they have provided for the route. This is one of them, which just basically goes over the route itself. It's like 30 some odd pages. And there's going to be 4 total. This, of course, is all available within your I think you can just simply look at it when you update the game without even actually buying the route. So if you just wanted to take a look around at this on its own, tells you all about Norfolk Southern's operations in the area, what the train symbols are, you know, mile posts, what's at each mile post, etc., etc. It's literally got everything you need to know. And this is a fairly in-depth area. Now, the line that it runs from Birmingham to just south of Tuscaloosa itself isn't I wouldn't call it a busy main line. The area in general and all the different railroads that cross in its own right make it busy, whether it's right around Tuscaloosa or Birmingham itself. I mean, God, you got like 7 or 8 railroads that operate in this general area. But this is one of the manuals here. This is PDF number 4. This is the actual map and grade chart and stuff like that. So it actually shows you, you can visualize instead of being like, where the hell am I? Where is north? Where is south? Da da da. This tells you everything you need to know right here. Everything about Birmingham, which of course is up in the northeast, and then down towards Meridian, Mississippi, down in the southwest. You got your grade chart here. So yeah, it looks like it is. Looks like about 117 feet to, where does that line go? Just above 800 feet. So yeah, it's like 700 feet-ish, a little over, thereabouts. It's got your hump yard classification or map, and it is frigging massive. We will, of course, take a look at that in a moment. And then your more in-depth maps in the various kind of, you know, heartbeats of the route itself, the really thick areas, which of course are mainly Birmingham and then a little bit around Tuscaloosa and things like that. So these are very helpful, very nice. They get you very accustomed to the route itself, just like the last add-on. I really like a lot of documentation. Nice to have. This is the 3rd manual or PDF file. It is the connection with the entirety of the network. Norfolk Southern, of course, shows you where Jacksonville is and how it connects down to Jacksonville up through Macon and Atlanta, of course, and then down to Mobile on the Gulf or New Orleans. It just gives you a really good sense of where you're at and where these trains are coming and going. And last but not least, PDF or manual number 4, your train routing. It's got your symbols, your spawn points, the tags that are on them, what kind of work they do, where they begin, where they end, turn around, so on and so forth. You have literally got everything you need in these 4 documents to get set up and running. All right, we are now in the main menu, and you can see on top of the Southwest, Southeast, New York, NorCal, and Penn, we have a new region, which is pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. Something else in the South or the East. But let's get real here. Something down into the Gulf. Yes. Very much yes. Very, very much yes. So anyway, we'll click on that. Hit select scenario. Now you're going to get one world save just like the last add-on. It, of course, says world save best ever. Gonna love it. All right. We'll hold you to that. But it does have an extra board just like everything else. All kinds of different trains here you can quickly take hold of. If you don't want to mess around or build anything, just hop in and go. Then you've got your standard trains here, Amtrak's included. But we're going to hop in the world, and we're going to jump around the map and take a look, as usual, of what's on offer here with this add-on. All right, guys, we're going to go south to north. We're going to start down at the bottom end or the southern end of the route, or what's in the game here, down at Powers. It's not really a town or an incorporation or whatever. It's just, I don't know what there's a lot of small places like this all over the states that aren't really cities. Anyway, you get the gist. It's called Powers down here. This is where we're at. And I've got it set to live weather, and it's a bit kind of hazy, foggy as it is over a lot of places of the South this morning because we've got some very mild weather that a lot of the country is experiencing or soon to be experiencing here in Florida. It's foggy as hell this morning, so it's pretty appropriate of how it looks here. So far, looking, do not mind the Florida East Coast locomotives. Don't mind that at all. Of course, they're on vacation up here in Bama Lama. But anyway, noticing the tracks right off, they look okay. It would be nice to have a bit more of a rust color, appropriation to them. But the ballast overall, the right of way does look good. It's got that nice kind of real light salt and pepper look to the stone, the ballast. It does look pretty nice. You can see the reddish tinge in the earth. Which is prominent to this area. And you've got some very clean crossings as well, this being one of them. That's pretty clean, for Run8. I don't want to say for Run8 especially, but for like most other train sims, especially like Train Sim Classic, you don't get crossings that clean. So that looks very nice. This is just a local sitting down here. You've got several small industries down here that I think are served out of Tuscaloosa primarily. I think there's a pretty big one that's served out of Tuscaloosa. This up here is pretty interesting. It's like a little, what is this? Yeah, this is Moundsville right here. Moundville. I always call it plural like it's two mounds. Nah. Moundville. Anyway, this is like a little... maintenance crew kind of fenced in area pin here with extra stuff and signals and things like that. And I was like, what in the hell is going on here? So I looked it up naturally on Google Maps, did the street view. Sure enough, these things are inside or on top of these bungalows just like this. So that is pretty darn accurate. That's neat. Very neat as well. You can see a lot of the newer assets being used in here, some of the buildings and the lampposts. And, you got some newer buildings as well, like this fire department. That looks pretty nice. You can tell the model itself is new. It's just pretty clean. It does look like a little sleepy southern town, 100%. So they're definitely kind of capturing that look overall. I like these kind of slow you down crossings here so kids don't go speeding across in their bike or whatever. They got to kind of slow down and actually double check if there's a train coming because, of course, there is a school right there. So neat little touches like that. And this is just on the far outskirts of the map. So it's always neat to see stuff like this. We'll go down the road a little bit. You've got another little industry here. I'm just going to I'm going to try and make this short and sweet as possible. And hit some of the larger industries. This here is Hero BX, a fuel tech company and one of the largest biodiesel manufacturers in the world, or at least in Alabama. This is a pretty good size one here. It's fleshed out pretty well. You've got your appropriate tankers here, of course. It does say Jacksonville Public Distribution Center, but, we reuse a lot of assets and Run8. It be what it be. And it's on the backside, so you're not really going to see it. Plus, up near Tuscaloosa, there is, in fact, a Publix distribution center. So there is that, which is pretty neat, but it ain't got nothing to do with that back there, obviously. So that's one of the bigger ones. We'll keep heading northbound here, or kind of north east. It's somewhat hilly terrain. It's not super flat. It kind of meets like the Gulf Plain and what they would call the Piedmont region. But it does look nice. Some areas you're not going to see a lot of trees. Um, but again, this is Run 8. You're meant to spend most of your time down here, not really up in the air like, I'm guilty of. I like to do, taking pictures and things like that. But alas, it's Run 8. You're supposed to be down here like this. And it does look really good because in the deep, dirty, thick south, a lot of these lines like this look just like this. I mean, it's a tunnel of trees pretty much everywhere you go down here. And so this does look pretty appropriate. I do like that they added all kinds of different types of foliage and vegetation. You got all your little weeds down here, a mixture of those all throughout. So, I mean, at this angle right here, this looks pretty primo, especially for Run 8. We're just a few miles up the track here, and I just really wanted to put the crossings on display here because they were really, really well done and just super cleanly placed within the sim. Complete with signs. You've even got a cross over here, like someone died. They generally, put one of those, someone passed away in a certain area in an automobile accident or, whatever, what have you. But just really, really clean looking crossings. And we do have some nice trees. I don't know if these are new. I don't recall seeing these. They may not be new, but I would like to see a lot more of these, I hope. They look like a pine, and, being in central and pretty much all Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, there's pine trees everywhere. So it would be cool to see a lot more of that. But, I mean, things are really stepping up in Run 8 as far as the scenery goes, and that looks nice, very nice. And there's those of you that don't give a flying rip about scenery, and that's totally fine. You just want to get in your train and do your thing. Everything else looks good as well. The infrastructure. There we go. Said it right that time. Got some Vaders on the appropriate posts, some bungalows, some old school telegraph poles, greasers. It do get cold down here on occasion. And some more of these just back middle of nowhere country crossings look very nice. Look very, very nice. Let's scooch up the road here. Got a couple little swampy areas. This looks good as well. There's a very large river over here. I think it's called the Black Warrior River. There it is right there. Kind of runs alongside back that way. Kind of up towards Tuscaloosa, and then I think it meanders on more to the north, I believe. But anyway, the right of way through here looks pretty fantastic. I love the way it looks. Just a corridor of bushes and trees. And yeah, if you get up a little high, you might not see a whole lot of vegetation. But hell, to be honest, this angle right here, that looks pretty dang good to me, if I'm honest. Other little bits of detail I love to see is like this ground swell or this, the edge of this earth right here kind of sinking in. So they built this wall to kind of prevent it from, flattening down and obviously affecting the railroad tracks. So they got this old, iron wall here, steel wall. You got some rocks and some water collected down in there, an old tree. Little details like that are really, really nice. Do like to see that. Still just a few miles between Moundville, where we kind of started, and getting close to Tuscaloosa. This is where you can kind of begin to see on your north or eastward journey where the track really starts to go up. It's got that roller coaster effect. Like I said, going south to north, it's going to be up, small down, big up, small down, big up. And then going north to south, the opposite, obviously. You can really see that on display here. And of course, the further you go, the more it will continue. Here's one of the next pretty good sized industries that you'll come along headed south out of Tuscaloosa. I believe this one's Covia Sand and Gravel. It's a sand and gravel producer just south of town there. And, they might fill a couple of cars here and there, but it's a nice looking spot. You can kind of see the pit in the distance there as well. Just right off the track. I don't know the actual milepost here. Anyway. And this right here, man, I come along and this is picture perfect, guys. The embankment or the easement that the tracks are upon. Got the low-lying areas on the side with the ditches filled with water. That is just really, really clean and nice looking. Very, very organic. Love the way this stuff looks. Another point here as well. I know we're looking at a lot of scenery right now, but I'm like, damn, this is Run8, and this looks pretty darn amazing. You got an old dirt road running right next to the track and a filled-in pond. I don't know if it's off of the river back there, and reservoir are dammed up for the farms, because there are a ton of farms around here as well, a lot of farmland. But just the color of the ground, the ballast, the bushes, the water, and it's just not that one kind of water mask. It's got this crap, like there's a lot of algae growing in it. It's just kind of maybe a bit shallow, and a lot of the, the vegetation in the water is just kind of touching the surface there. It's just a really, really good looking area. Here's one of the first sightings that you'll come across. We're down at Crabtree. That is the interstate. So Tuscaloosa is right up there around the bend. Pretty good sized city for the area. But it's another really good viewpoint where you can see just the nature of the track. Those of you that have or know of the Fitzgerald sub in Georgia, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that in a lot of ways. And you can really see that on display here. This here, as we approach Tuscaloosa, is Interstate 20. So, of course, being even, that is an east and west interstate. We'll go up to the town here. A lot of good-sized industry. A lot of this stuff isn't rail-served, more modern trucking, of course. But it still looks good. You've got a lot of ditches, a lot of drainage. Just a very natural-looking area. Not, like when I say clean, I don't mean clean and tidy. I just mean like clean the way that it's built. Like it just looks really good map wise. Got a lot of ditches like this, which is crap laying all over. People throw trash and old tires and plywood and stuff like that. But you've got several industries here as well. One of the big ones we'll kind of focus on, like I said, not going to go over all of them, is Tamco Building Products, which is right here. And I believe they are a massive roofing shingle producer. I don't know countrywide, if not internationally, but this place is pretty dang large. You got some stuff in here. Looks like they got their own little doodle bopper there to move cars around. Just a very, very nice looking industry and area. Looking good. There's several other ones I don't even know what they are, to be honest. The Alabama Southern Railway is right up here. That's their diamond that we're going to be coming up on here in a minute. Here you can see right here. So these cars, this track is actually marked Alabama Southern, so it's the interchange for right here. Obviously, here is the diamond. Alabama Southern Railway running north and south. We'll see how far south it goes. Just around the bend there, so nothing really there. That's fine. You got a little track right here. Looks like it's ripped up. No, yeah, it is. Oh, it's cool. Love seeing stuff like that. Old disused track. Yes. Yes. Like it a lot. All right, anyway, so this is how they interchange right here. You've got another little spot here as well to spot some cars. Alabama Southern. I mean, you could do some stuff around there with ABS if you wanted. But I think a lot of that kind of stuff is mainly just for AI, for shizzies and gizzies, for the looks and things like that. Got some power sitting there waiting for you to run. Go a little bit more north. Another major kind of crossing right here, which looks nice and clean. This, of course, right here is Tuscaloosa Station. A very decent building representation. This thing looks pretty good. I'd say the only thing that doesn't look tit for tat about it is maybe like the color of the roof, but otherwise this thing looks pretty good. It belonged and served the Southern Railway, of course, from 1911 to presently serving Amtrak's Crescent. So it is still in use, and it's still a cool old building. It's just absolutely lovely to see these old depots that are still used like this and haven't been turned into a museum or mothballed or anything like that. It's just very nice. It does look like this for the most part. Again, you know, not to be a super duper stickler, but the roof color is, I think the roof color is like more of a reddish color instead of this green or whatever the hell, but it does look good. You got the Amtrak signs and boards on here. Amtrak waiting room with their hours on there. Tuscaloosa. Oh, Tusky-Loo. And then this kind of small yard over here. I don't know what this is for, honestly. I don't know if it's just part of the Alabama Southern Interchange or what, if I'm completely honest. It will be a great mystery until the end of time, for me at least. I'm sure a lot of you guys know. So rounding the bend here, you see this thing out here, and you're thinking, what in tarnation is that? That is a very interesting representation of the stadium for which the Crimson Tide University of Alabama football team plays. And what's a bit hilarious about this is it looks like this, right? So it does look like that in real life for the most part when you hit it from these angles, but then you go like back here where you're really not supposed to be, and you can see what it's made out of. And that's pretty interesting. That's kit bashing at its finest. I mean, when you look at it like this, it's like, all right, the aliens have definitely landed. Here's their base of operations. Oh my God. But then you go back over here, you know, where you're going to be on the tracks or near the track, and it does look like that. So, University of Alabama. I already lost the track now. Here we go. Yep. So I saw that initially. I was like, is that the stadium? And sure enough, it is. But, you know, again, from these angles, it looks legit, man. I mean, the road goes right to it. It's just some nice looking areas here. College town, of course, a lot of apartment buildings, and got your bus lines and all that. Just a nice looking area. I don't know who built this map. A lot of people thought it was High Rail. I don't think it was Jason. He might have assisted with some assets and things. But I don't know if it was Jason overall. I don't know if it was John, you know, the main developer, or someone under him, or with guidance, or someone totally different. I don't know. But it seems about in par. It doesn't seem any less, and it doesn't really seem like anything new or over the top either. So, I mean, who knows? So far, it looks decent enough. You can definitely tell it's got that old college town look still with these buildings here. Just a nice looking area. Of course, you know, up high, which Run8 isn't really meant to be played. You know, you could have this argument all day. Some things don't look so great, but down here, you know, they look pretty okay. Pretty okay. The one thing that kind of gets me though is like back where we started near Powers, and you had the tunnel of trees and the, you know, the clean easement and all the weeds and little small bushes. And then you get to parts like this that don't. They just kind of look a bit unfinished. And, you know, the jaggy terrain is real prominent to see. So it's kind of funny, you know, middle of nowhere like we just were. And then now we're in one of the big cities on the map. And there's areas like this that just seem a little bit too clean at ground level. All right, we've come up the road quite a ways. We're actually a little over halfway between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham now, and this is Vance, or essentially Mercedes or Benz or whatever the crew or the road want to call it. But the nearest kind of little town or community is Vance, and it is a massive Mercedes-Benz auto manufacturer plant. And there's a lot going on here. There's a lot you can do. For anybody that loves auto racks, as do I, and rack trains, this is your jam right here, because there is a lot of that to be done. Essentially, your trains will come from Brunswick down on the southern coast in Georgia, just right there near Florida, kind of, the Port of Brunswick. And that's where cars will be shipped in and out to be finished, or finished product will be shipped out. Trains will typically come from Brunswick, bringing racks, and then be shipped out to and fro, but the place is absolutely massive. It's a fairly new facility as well. I don't think it's too thoroughly old, but what's neat is it's got this road and rail mechanical services right here yard, which has got their own switcher. They're kind of their own little company. They kind of move cars around. They've got their own little yard right here. Of course, I've got a little fill-in Run8 railroad engine there, but it looks pretty much just like this in real life. Their little shops here. This is their own little yard. You know, where they'll stage auto racks and things like that. The track goes in and around all the way. And there's quite a bit you can do in here. The place is massive, and it looks pretty faithful if you get on and, look at Google Maps and all that good stuff as far as the layout. But there's a lot to do. You can make some hoggingly huge rack trains back here, so it's always cool to see stuff like this. And if we do eventually get something like Brunswick, which there's a lot of train operation in Brunswick, and then Savannah as well. The sky's the limit with stuff like this, and ports and shipping and all that, because, I'd like to touch on for a moment this AGS. This wasn't a big surprise to a lot of people, because a lot of people were kind of, I don't want to call it hacking, but looking into the files of Run8 over the years, and AGS has been in the base files for quite some time. So people kind of knew it was coming. The surprise was that it released yesterday on the 18th, a Wednesday, no less, when most, I think most Run8 stuff releases on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So interesting to see that. Still no Haunts Dashy Boys. Who knows if we'll ever get those to go on to complete with all this new Norfolk Southern stuff. But apparently there's a lot of other stuff in the works. So we will see. The reason I touch on that is I feel like I do recall Jason from High Reel saying that we will eventually go into Savannah, which will be pretty badass. I don't know about Brunswick. That, regionally, system map, it kind of wouldn't really make sense, but Savannah, absolutely. But anyway, Mercedes plant, one of the big areas that you can work here. This is a train that basically goes in and out of here, and it's just a nice, neat, cool area. Another absolutely ginormous industry, which is right up the road from the Mercedes-Benz plant, is the Kankakee sawmill and wood supplier, which is huge, and this represents the area pretty well as well. Got your little spurs down here, got your stake cars, your center beams, all kinds of stuff, box cars, of course. Pretty good sized place, and there's a couple of sidings. So there's actually one down there at the Benz plant, which aptly is named the Benz siding, if I'm not mistaken. And this one here, I don't know what this one here is. Let's see if we can find a sign. Just wanted to touch on further up the road, you get back to the real nice looking, right of way or easement. This looks epic. I love the way that they did this with the trees, the mixes of trees, the vegetation, the shrub, the brush, all along trackside. It's just a couple of areas. I don't know whether they forgot or they just simply didn't feel like doing it in certain areas. But a lot of the area does kind of look like this, because this is a big part of what you're going to be seeing when you're running trains back through here. Of course, unless you're one of those types that likes running at night where you don't see anything. But this is what a lot of the map looks like, thankfully. There are a few spots that are a bit bare, though. A bit further up, you've got the absolutely massive Newell yard. I mean, it's not absolutely massive. It's pretty darn heckin' large, though. You've got transload automobiles, obviously. You can see some racks sitting here in the little ramps for the cars and the trucks and the vehicles. And then, of course, intermodal as well. But again, it looks very nice back in here. Probably one of the best, I don't know, one of the nicest looking yards. It's kind of not just completely raised of anything nature. It just looks very nice back in here. All these bridges, the roads, the train tracks, boom, boom, boom. Got rocks here to help prevent washouts of the earth down into the creek. It just looks very good back in here. We do have some floating witch hats, so that's interesting. But yeah, pretty good sized yard back in here. I believe this is where some of the Mercedes plant stuff can be transloaded if need be, driven down here. But I thought typically they did everything on their own. I don't know what the hell that is. But yeah, it's a good looking. I mean, this is like model railroad clean looking stuff right here. This looks pretty good to me. You got your scales over here, of course, coming in and out onto the highway, and then there's a A little on-ramp onto the highway back in here. It's all really well done, really well placed and thought out. It looks very nice. Birmingham Intermodal Yard. We'll keep on trucking that way, though. Now, this is the Norris Hump Bowl, and it's one of the largest on Norfolk Southern's network. I don't think it's the largest, but I think it's the largest by size and volume. So, like, the amount of trains that come through here versus the size or expanse that it takes up on the geography of this part of Alabama. But it basically receives all cars from the whole AGS network, and it's the base of operations for a ton of AGS locals. I didn't go over all of them. I'll leave that up to you to go look at, but there are a ton of locals. Like I was saying, that's pretty much the bread and butter of this route. If you want to do hump bowls, this is your doggy. If you want to do locals as well, this is your doggy. But it is a absolutely massive yard. Again, looks very authentic to the real deal. Got your tower there. Got some more shops over here. Well, no, those might be car shops because I think the engine shops are down that way. But it's friggin' huge. I mean, it's... Whew, is that Waycross huge? I don't know. They I'd kind of like to take a picture from like the same angle somehow and figure out if it is. Got a tower on this side as well. This back here is all like maintenance away operations, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of the trucks or the high rail vehicles and things like that. A lot of tracks, you know, rail, ballast, maintenance away. You can see some MOW storage back here. It's friggin' chungus. Now, again, some of the distant scenery like that is left to be desired. But again, if you're down in here, about like yay, you don't see it, which is, you know, mainly even if you're on foot, you hit the F12 key and it plops you down on your 2 feet. This is about what you'll see here, and it looks appropriate. I mean, you can see the ridge through here being the very southern end of the Appalachian Mountain chain. But when you get a little bit higher up like that, if you want to take some aerial shot, then yeah, you're going to notice some very bare spots. You know, I kind of understand that. Well, a lot of people aren't crazy about that, myself included, especially when you see stuff like that. But as far as the way the yards look and the industries and the sittings and everything else that's really close to the line itself, I mean, when you're down like this, it looks thick up in here. I mean, visually, this is probably one of the best looking routes that I've seen, aside from... Geez, maybe like Waycross or the Fitzgerald sub. It's just a really, really nice, really well put together area. There's a lot you can do here, though. I mean, the line itself predominantly runs a lot of manifest, intermodal, coal, auto racks, steel. Tons of locals like the 837 from Tuscaloosa North, the 839 from McCalla Yard to Bessemer. 844 Birmingham to Vance, Merck Job, the 855 Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. Very, very thick AB10. It even gives you a fair warning within your manual if you want to run the AB10, or they just call it the 10 as well, if I'm not mistaken. From Norris to Finley yards. But there is a lot to do here. A lot of trains and a lot of trackages overlapping each other. Plenty of industry, plenty to do to keep you busy. We just need a -9 to complete it all and some other stuff, because one thing that's pretty interesting about this area as well is some of the power that's used in this region that's not really used so much on the rest of the Norfolk Southern network, at least in like the southern tier stuff. But that would be cool to have eventually one day as well. But overall, this is a pretty good looking route. I tried to keep this short and sweet. There's a ton of industry. You know, the trackage looks great. A lot of the scenery looks great. There's just a lot to do. If you're into running an A to B type train, this probably isn't your bag. But if you're wanting to run some transfer jobs, switch jobs, hump operations, locals, this definitely is in your wheelhouse. I can't wait to actually effectively start running trains on here. I just wanted to do a quick jump around. For those that may have been interested in the route, I could have done a train run, but like always, that would have taken like 4 hours, and you just end up skipping through the whole video anyway, so we'll do it like this. Hope you found it informative, and hopefully catch you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. See you next time. We're now in Bessemer, not to be confused with the BNLE or Bessemer and Lake Erie. Bessemer, Alabama. That before you there is a pretty neat feature. That is an ex-Atlantic Coastline Bridge. And there's actually a former station down here as well, and it is in the game. Pretty cool. McDonald's, double cheeseburger. Get her done. Here it is. Yep. So this looks pretty legit too. So this looks like another kind of kit bash of maybe an asset that existed, like they stretched and smushed and I don't know. Anyway, this is a former Alabama Great Southern Railway station built in 1916, which served passengers up until the 70s, of course, when Amtrak came along and ruined everything. It's now a museum, as well as there's a Norfolk Southern office down here somewhere as well. Got old freight platform here too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, this old bridge here, I think it's still here in real life. You can see where it used to come across right here. And I think as you go this way, they turned it into one of those like pedestrian trail type things where it would kind of go that way in real life now. But details like that, you know, it's something that I feel like if you'd have come through here and knew a tiny bit about the area and you didn't see that, you'd be like, hey, that's missing. That don't look right. But it's there, so it's pretty cool. I think that Norfolk Southern office is down here a little ways. Here it is right here. Yep. There we go. Bessemer. So it looks like they used a lot of the signs. They just took street signs, but at least they're there, which is very nice. Like the embankment with the old ties kind of holding back the earth there as well. Nice looking area. Got your radio tower back there as well. You got several, like I said, industries that are pretty massive. I didn't go over a lot of them, obviously. Some of this other stuff is part of other short lines that you may not necessarily be able to run that don't even touch the main road. So this is our railroad, right? The AGS. This is not. You can see it's completely split and does not touch. That's part of another railroad. You can still do stuff back there because I think as long as there's tracks in Run8, you can put a train on it and run stuff. But anywho. This here is another good size industry along the way. We're inching closer and closer to Birmingham. This is the Wholesome Birmingham Slag Plant, which is basically, as its name suggests, it is a material supplier. You got a couple of towers there you can run through. You can actually see the old strip mine down in the background there and a reservoir there. But yeah, just another good size industry. The industries all along this route are placed out fairly well, so it's not like you're going to be doing 20 miles and then you'll have like 30 industries bunched up. Like what I'm getting at is they're spaced out pretty well along the entirety of this route. There she is, folks. Birmingham, Alabama. You will note some of the buildings in the background are from previous routes. We keep being followed by the one of the most notable buildings in Orlando, which you can definitely see. I think there are a couple of new models up there, or at least they were kind of kit bashed and squeezed and stretched or something like that, because they do look a bit different. But this is the western end of Birmingham, and it gets crazy up there. And I just wanted to get down to track level again, or you know, crew level on a train. And you can really see how it just kind of keeps going up. And it's almost like a set of stairs coming down from the south in Tuscaloosa up into Birmingham and beyond up towards Chattanooga, of course, eventually, hopefully. But anyway, a lot of the track side still looks pretty good. It was just that, you know, there's kind of a couple spots that I just happened to notice. But overall, it does look good. And you've got a lot of foliage and brush and things like that because it's thick down here, man, especially in the depths of summer. It's thick. I mean, if you step 1 foot outside, you're going to be covered in ticks and mosquitoes and everything else, basically, in areas like this. So it does kind of represent that fairly well, which is very nice. We are just a little bit further up, about maybe a mile, maybe half a mile. But this here is CSX. This is where CSX comes across out of the south, from Georgia, basically, and goes up and then kind of cuts back north up that way as well, across and interchanging naturally with Norfolk Southern. You've got a lot of little ground signals all through here, which look very good. There's some interesting ones up in Norris Yard, which we will take a look at. But a lot of the infrastructure and signage and things like that, it all looks pretty appropriate and realistic, which is very nice. And I mean, 6 diamonds. I'm not a massive diamond foamer, on that kind of spectrum, but they are cool. And then when you've got 6 of them, hot damn, that's pretty cool. Let the defect detector do his thing. It's one of the absolutely chonk-tastic signal bridges. Just friggin' huge. Absolutely huge. All the tracks through here. This is an old town. It was built this way purposefully for railroad infrastructure back in the day. And a lot of it, it's kind of got this, we'll call it like a causeway, almost like a bridge over a river or something like that. It's built up, and it was built this way on purpose to not impede traffic or have to deal with car traffic and things like that. So it's just a straight shot on through. You've either got bridges going across, you've got several tunnels that go underneath the tracks themselves, all through town here. But it's a really cool looking area, and I think they did a pretty damn faithful recreation of what Birmingham looks like right downtown here. Of course, sans the Jacksonville and Orlando buildings, but overall the placement and the shape, if you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, one of those things, it looks spot on. This here is Railroad Park. It's a big old city park that they turned into a park. I don't know, I think it's called Railroad Park. It might be an extra name or something on there, but it's pretty cool. It's definitely a big train watching spot, along with all the bridges that go across the tracks. Just a really cool looking place. 65 back there. The station, here's the Amtrak station. So it ain't much to look at nowadays. It's got them old, just kind of rain and sun barrier things. It just looks like something straight out of the 70s. But this was originally built for the L&N in, I think, 1960, and they tore it down. Of course, now it serves Amtrak Crescent. But what's neat is this over here, which they pretty much faithfully recreated as well. This is the Powell Avenue Steam Plant, and you can think of it just like a steam locomotive. This thing lasted and ran over 100 years, burning coal, producing steam to power, electricity and heat to the city, because it does get cold up here. It says it's 40 degrees right now, at 9 o'clock in the morning, which I think the weather's pretty spot on within Run8, which is that's really neat to me. But this whole area looks really, really nice. You can see Sloss Furnace down there in the distance. And then, of course, the CSX line snakes around that way, and then the NS just kind of keeps going that way. But the area overall looks nice. They built a more modern building here for Norfolk Southern Amtrak, of course, serving the trains, and then their bus terminal as well. But the city looks pretty legit. Here's one of the underpasses, which is, they took the time to make that clean, which is pretty cool, seeing as how you're not really going to be looking at stuff like that. So you got that. You got several of these old, crossovers here, I'm sure, which get thick with rail fans, because, the traffic that comes through here with, all the different interchanges and whatnot, it's a mess with how many trains come through here. Alrighty, we're down at one of the bigger kind of famed diamonds or intersections of the area. That's the Norfolk Southern line right there. This right here is the CSX line. I forget the name of the yard that's up here, but I think it's kind of half built. Yeah, so you can essentially run trains through here, or do the, the interchange type deal through here if you would like. Let's go back up here and take a look at Sloss Furnace, the historic blast furnace. This place is cool as hell, and supposedly very haunted as hell if you're into that kind of stuff. I certainly am. But again, they did a faithful recreation of what this place looks like in real life, and it does look like that. Down here is where the mic would be. The old 282 would sit right here in real life. Of course, alas, we don't have one of those in in Run8, so that's why they're not in there. But it's cool to see. It's thick down here in this place. I haven't been to Salt's Furnace. I would love to go. It's open to the public. It's sort of like a museum. But yeah, very cool place. We'll continue on down this way, though. Friggin' absolutely huge yard, as with the other side of the yard, which is down here. You've got one of your BNSF trains that comes out of the northwest, sat here ready to run, which is pretty cool. It's all set up. I do love this canal that's all down through here. And the way that was laid out, very clean, very nice. Tons of crossings. If you like tooting your horn, we'll go down here. CMC. This is a huge still to this day steel manufacturer. CMC Steel, Alabama. Absolutely chungus. You can do all kinds of stuff in here. They've got all kinds of little spurs and tracks back in here. The place is huge. We'll keep on trucking down this way. You kind of start getting into the very edge of the mountains. That little bit swings out there and kind of comes back to where we are here right now. We'll keep on going down this way. Coming around the bend. And there's the absolutely massive Norris Yard on the east side of town. There's a bunch of cool little things, and not only does it look appropriate, and this is actually the main line down here for the most part where trains run through. This is the yard. You've got these little kind of, I haven't seen these before in Run8, so I think they're new, custom like dwarf signals down in here in these little boxes, which is pretty neat. But you got the Irondale water tower up there, because it's kind of like a little suburb. It's called Irondale, but it's just a neat area and a great representation. And it looks nice. That in the distance is one of the ridges or mountains in the area that I was talking about earlier in the video. The kind of very southern edge of the Appalachian mountain chain. That's Ruffner Mountain, which has got a ton of hiking trails and an overlook on the backside of it and all kinds of other stuff. But this all looks really good. It looks really appropriate. You've got some Norfolk Southern shops here in the main office there, naturally. Fuel storage. Here's some of the shops here, more like a fuel tender. Here's the shops. Yeah, plenty of engines sitting, idling, as well as freight. Just absolutely massive. And then here's the hump yard.